legends come to fight. Bodies clashing, dreams ignite under the neon lights. Oh yeah, Pondwater Dave is the voice calling every move. Amy, Vaughn, and the trivia getting you in the groove. Oh yeah. Feel the energy, the thunder as the crowd begins to roar. High flying daredevils in a battle like never before. Oh yeah, from the turnbuckle to the mat, the action never stops. Talking wrestling takes you to the top. Oh yeah, feel the energy, the thunder as the crowd begins to roar. High flying daredevils in a battle like never before. Oh yeah, from the turnbuckle to the mat, the action never stops. Talking wrestling takes you to the top. Oh yeah, talking wrestling, it's the alright from suplexes to body slams. We got it all inside, get ready for excitement, that's on the show. Talking wrestling is ready to throw down. Oh yeah.
Hello and welcome to another edition of Talking Wrestling with Pondwater Dave. I'm Pondwater Dave. Joined with me as always is the First Lady of the Arn Anderson Fan Club, Miss Amy Vaughn.
Hello, got my new Four Horsemen hat on today. Didn't it look nice?
Look at you go, kid.
I
Look at
know
you
it
go.
looks nice, doesn't it?
You bought you a Four Horseman hat for Arm's birthday?
You know what? Actually, I got it in Evansville last week when he was at the Raptor Con.
There you go.
So that was pretty nice, isn't it?
And we have a very, very special guest tonight. He's a good friend of mine. You know him as the Gimmick Attorney.
Hey.
Gimmick Attorney Mike Dockins. Mike, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, buddy. Amy, you were in God's country. Evansville is where I'm from. Born and raised. Yeah.
Interesting. You know, I don't live very far, about 2 hours south.
Okay.
Around Paducah.
Yeah. I used to go fishing as a kid in Paducah with my dad all the time.
Cool. Well, learn something new. I like that.
Yeah. What about that?
Yeah, I think Amy's got an alert that goes off if Arn's within driving distance. And
Life 360. No. He doesn't know that, but yes, I do. No.
so we already admitted to stalking on the show tonight.
He already knows. No.
Before we came on the air, Mike was showing me his office there. You said you have action figures for everyone that you've done work for.
Yeah. I actually stole the idea from Smart Mark Sterling, who early in his podcasting career with Cardona and Myers was talking about how he had a cabinet with action figures of anybody he had like appeared on screen with. And they were kind of busting his chops about it, about like, oh, so anytime you're, in catering and, bumped into him, you'd get a figure. Because at that point, he wasn't with AEW and hadn't been on a lot of TV. He'd just done extra work with WWE for a while. And so, that's not a bad idea. That'd be fun to do. It's just collect a figure of different people that I've gotten trademarks for or done legal work for. And so just started at that point, and it's grown and grown and grown. And I thought, well, what am I going to do with all this? And my wife, who does not care about wrestling, even in the slightest bit, was more than happy to have me bring it to work. And so my office here at the firm is actually, it's like a stop on the tour. We've got this huge building. It's like 100 and something thousand square feet. It used to be an old plumbing supply company here in Toledo. And we bought it back in the 70s and just finished it off and made it a law firm instead of renting space in one of the high rises or something like that. And so, people come in, they'll want to see it because it's pretty cool. It's a historical building. It's been around for a long time. And people I will never see again, people I will never do legal work for, get walked into my office like, oh, you got to check out this guy's office. It's like a museum. So it's a stop on the tour.
Yeah, my wife doesn't really care for my wrestling stuff, but you let somebody come to the house and she brings them back and shows them. So.
Yeah, of course.
But you would think that, because you're at least yours provides an income.
Yeah,
she'd have a better attitude about it, Mike.
She does compared to what it used to be. It used to be a bad attitude about, oh, you're watching this garbage again. Oh, I don't understand why you watch this. I don't get that anymore. Now it pays the bills, right? Pays the mortgage and pays for dance lessons and football and soccer and all these other things for the kids. So she's much more patient with it than she used to be. And to her credit, I would drag her out to things all the time before I was doing legal work for wrestlers. And there's a AA hockey team here called the Toledo Walleye. And the Walleye did a wrestling night, and they brought Hacksaw Jim Duggan. And so I was like, well, we're going to a Walleye game. The kids were little. Like I said, this is 10 years ago or so. And so we go and wait in line. And, I brought a picture or something with me to get signed, and he signed it and got some photos with him. And we walked away, and my wife goes, I'll tell you what, you've dragged me to a number of these things and made me meet wrestlers and people that I have no idea who they are. She goes, but I'll tell you what, they are always appreciative of their fans. And they're always so gracious and so happy to see people and so engaging. She's like, it's really kind of impressive how cool they are with their fans and how appreciative they are. I'm like, well, how about that? Something positive about wrestling.
There you go. Well, tell everybody how it started, because you mentioned that you were watching wrestling, but tell everybody how you made your way from being just a lawyer to I'm sure you were always a trademark attorney.
Yeah.
But specializing in wrestling, tell everybody how that started.
Yeah. So actually, for the big portion of the first of my career, I wasn't doing trademark work at all. I was doing patent work. I have an engineering degree, and I hated engineering, and I knew I wasn't going to be an engineer. But at that point, I was through the hardest part of engineering school, and I thought, well, boy, what am I going to do with this? And I had worked for a pharmaceutical company in Indianapolis, Eli Lilly, and that's when I decided this is not for me. I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. And so I met with their patent attorneys and all of that, and they said, yeah, go to law school after this is over. You can't be a patent attorney and help people patent their inventions without an engineering degree. So you're already part of the way there. So do that. So that's what I did. And came out of law school and went to a small boutique intellectual property firm. And that's where I started picking up a little bit of trademark stuff. But primarily I was focused on patents. One of our partners had retired, and all he did was trademarks. He did not have an engineering degree. And so I kind of stepped in where that was and picked up a lot of the trademark work, started, really focusing on that, and then left the firm for a while, went and worked for a solar company. And when I was with the solar company, I was doing patent stuff, but also managing their trademark portfolio. So I came back out of the corporate world and back into a law firm and really hit the ground running on trademark stuff. And that was really the focus of what I was doing. And back in, it was probably late 2018, I was laying on the couch, fast forwarding through Raw one night. The kids were in bed. The wife was getting cleaned up and ready for bed. And I was cleaned up and ready for bed. And I saw a commercial for a local wrestling promotion. And it reminded me of a commercial I had seen or listened to earlier that day on a podcast about StarCast. And I didn't know you. I didn't know Conrad. I didn't know anybody from Adam. And I'm laying there on the couch. I very vividly remember all this. I'm laying on the couch, and I was like, I should reach out to that Conrad Thompson guy. I've never met him. He doesn't know me. He'll probably not even respond to this, but he needs to protect his brand. He needs to know the things that maybe he doesn't know. And so I get on Twitter, and at the time I probably had like 10 followers because I wasn't really active on doing anything. And so I'm like, hey, my name is Mike Dockins. I'm an attorney. I do trademark work. You and I are roughly the same age. I'm a year older than Conrad, but roughly the same age. We grew up on the same stuff. We love the same stuff. I've been listening to your podcast since day one. And I didn't make it to the first StarCast, but I know you got one coming up. You should really consider protecting your brand. This thing is really taking off, and your podcasts are really taking off. You all seem to be making good money. You should protect your trademark. I'd be happy to help you in any way. Like, you don't even have to hire me. I'd just be a friendly voice. I'm happy to donate some time, just a friendly voice that's not on the meter that you're paying to tell you what you want to hear. Run stuff by me, bounce it off me. I'm happy to help. And that was that. I was like, we'll see what happens. I kid you not, 30 seconds, 45 seconds later, I get a DM back from him. And he was like, hey man, your timing's really weird on this, because I just reached out to somebody here in Huntsville this week about trademarks. I'd be curious to hear what your thoughts are. And I said, I'm obviously freaking out. I'm like, what the heck? Like, I didn't expect to hear from him at all, let alone within a minute. And so I said, what's your email? I'll send you a proposal tomorrow. And he sends me his email. I said, well, look for an email from me tomorrow morning. So I got up early the next morning, came into work, put together a real quick proposal, about what to do for StarCast and what to do for 83 weeks and something to wrestle and what happened when and whatever other podcasts there were at the time. I think that's about it. There might have been one more at the time. And, what I thought it would cost and, what I think he should do and why he should do it, and sent it to him. And didn't hear anything. Didn't hear anything for a couple days. He finally emails me back. He's like, hey, got this. Thanks. I'll look at it. I'll be in touch. Didn't hear anything for a couple weeks. And so I just kept emailing him. I'm like, hey, man, I'm just going to be the squeaky wheel. If you ever want me to stop pestering you, just let me know. But I know how this goes. This is going to fall to the bottom of your inbox and you're going to completely forget about it unless I keep bubbling it back up to the top, And so that's what I did. And 2 or 3 months down the road, I get a phone call from him. And he's like, hey, I'm doing this thing in Vegas. I really want to make some headlines. Let's protect some trademarks. I'm not talking any state secrets here because it's all public record, but he's like, I've got the Undertaker booked and we're going to do a live on stage thing and we're going to call it Dead Man Talking. Let's trademark it and let's do StarCast and let's do this and let's do that. And let's do that. And he listed a few different things that I'll get taken care of and I'll get taken care of today. And while all that's happening, I had gone to the managing partner of my firm, and we're in 6 or 7 different states. We're in a number of different cities, but the managing partner of the firm was in the Toledo office at the time. And I went to him. His name is Tom. And I said, Tom, got this idea. I've reached out to this guy. He's connected to everybody. I don't know what's going to happen with it, but it's a very word of mouth business. And I think that, I'm going to do good work for people and it's going to take off. I hope, but I want to try to make this a thing. Because these wrestlers don't know what they don't know, right? They don't know anything about intellectual property. They get fired or leave and they call themselves something completely different, or they have all this brand equity in this trademark, in this stage name, and then they have to leave it behind. I've been a wrestling fan since I was a kid. Who better to help them than me? I could talk to them about Flair and Steamboat. We can make fun of the Shockmaster together. Like all these things that, I know it. Why not me? And so here's what I want to do. I want to start like sponsoring and going to local shows. And I think that'll get me some access to people. And then I want to do that for regional shows. And I'm going to, go out to the bar or whatever afterwards and buy drinks. And because it's just going to take a couple to take off and they're going to tell their friends and they're going to tell their friends and they're going to tell their friends. And so the first couple trademarks I did for some indie guys that had done some stuff for NWA, I did for free. So I can't pay the government fees for you. You got to pay for that. But I'll do the rest for free. And they're like, why would you do that? Like, because you're going to tell your friend and your friend's going to tell his friend and hey, he really took care of me and whatever. And hopefully it's going to take off. And my managing partner looked at me and he goes, well, Mike, we spent a lot more money on dumber ideas than this. He goes, so you have my blessing. Do whatever you need to. If you want to sponsor something, whatever, we have, procedures here at the firm, but if there's a form or whatever, send it to me because I'm just going to approve it because I trust you. And so that's what happened. And it kind of slow builds. And then fast forward to, I think it was March of 2019. The reason I remember this is I had gone to the doctor because I had broken my leg playing soccer on Thanksgiving of 2018. I had to have a plate and pins and all this put in. And it was, it might have been late February, but anyway, it was the spring of 2019. I'd gone to the doctor because they were going to finally clear me to be able to walk. And I have to use crutches or a walking boot or any of these things. And I was driving home afterwards because I had my walking boot on. I only had one shoe. And the doctor's like, did you bring your other shoe? No. He goes, that's too bad because you're cleared and, you're going to need your other shoe. So I had to drive home. So I'm driving home. I'm like, man, I'm low on gas. And I stop at the gas station. I put it in park and get out to pump. And I'm looking at my phone. I see this email. It says, hey, this is my buddy Mike. He's helped me with all my trademark stuff. Mike, this is my buddy Drew. Drew needs some help. Can you help Drew with some trademark stuff? And I was like, oh, cool. And like as I'm putting my phone back in my pocket, I realized that the email was Luke Gallows. His real name is Drew Hankinson. And I was like, holy shit, this is a WWE person. My God. So I immediately, texted him back and whatever. And went home, got my shoe, went back to the office. But anyway, Drew and I set up a call and he and I were talking about all the different things the Good Brothers were doing at the time and what was available and what wasn't. He got really excited about the trademarks that were available. He goes, hey, I'm going to call my tag team partner. I'm going to call Carl Anderson's his stage name, but Chad's his name. I'll call Chad. Don't be surprised if Chad calls you back. I'm like, cool. And half an hour later, Chad calls me and we're talking through whatever. WWE had actually filed some things for Chad, but they let it go abandoned. He was like, oh my God, it's abandoned. Can you file it tonight? Yes, I can. And so I filed the stuff for him that night. And then those guys started telling their friends. And it just, what I hoped would be the path in my wildest dreams is actually what it ended up being. And I never could have guessed that it would take off the way that it did, but it did. And it's fun. I enjoy it. I enjoy my job. I enjoy working with people. And so that's the origin story of the Gimmick Attorney.
Well, you mentioned patents. You're doing patents, and you had to have an engineering degree. So is a patent like, say, the formula for Coca-Cola?
Sort of. So let's see. Do I have it handy? I think no, I got to put away. A patent is for inventions, right? And a patent can be, there's a number of different types of patents. It can be a number of different things, but it's a thing. It's a widget, right? It's this Yeti microphone and all the pieces and parts that make it operate. Or it's a method of doing something. So software potentially can be patented. So it's how the algorithm and all the steps that are happening. It could be a formula. It can be a formula. It often is, like pharmaceuticals and drugs and things like that. There's something called the design patent. A design patent covers, not shockingly, a design, right? It covers not how something works, but how it looks. And so what do I mean by that? If we have a water pitcher, right? A patent would say a water pitcher has a side wall and a bottom wall capable of containing a fluid, right? That's the broadest you would possibly make. It might have a spout, it might have a handle and all these things, but by and large, it's a container with side walls capable of holding a fluid. That's a patent. That's a utility patent because you're talking about what it is and how it works. A design patent would say, it doesn't matter that it holds water and all that. It's shaped like a gremlin. And so what you're covering is a gremlin shaped water pitcher, not the fact that it holds water and all of that. So that's a patent. A trademark, on the other hand, is a source identifier. So it's a word, it's a logo, it can be a color, it can be a smell, it can be a sound, it can be a lot of different things, but it's a source identifier. So when you hear the chimes for NBC, you know that it's NBC, right? You know whether that's good or bad, you know what that means. When you see the golden arches off the interstate, when you're driving down the road, whether you're here in Toledo, whether you're down in God's country, Evansville, or whether you're in Utica, Mississippi.
Yeah, it's McDowell's.
Yeah, it's the Golden Arc, not the Golden Arches.
Oh, that's right.
But you know what the source is, right? Whether you think that's good or bad or indifferent, you know what to expect. You know where it came from. That's a brand. That's a trademark. Stage names are trademarks, right? So for wrestlers, because they're providing a wrestling service. So to the point about people leaving WWE and having to change their names, when you hear Doink, do you think of WWE or do you think of Matt Bourne, Ray Apollo, I suppose? Do you think of that particular person, the source of those services? Anybody can dress up like a clown. I mean, hell, I guess Brooklyn Brawler did it, right?
Right.
Maybe that was a bad example. If you hear Magnum TA, right? That's a stage name. That's not Terry Allen's real name. Magnum TA. You know what to expect. You knew the source of that. You knew who the character was. You knew who the guy that was performing was. You knew what he could do, his moveset, and all those things. You don't take Scott Steiner, rebrand him Magnum TA, and put him in there and expect the same thing, right? That's why it's a trademark. It's a source. Terry Allen is the source of Magnum TA's wrestling services. When the WWE did fake Razor and fake Diesel, they did that in response to lawsuits with WCW. Right? Because WWE says that we own all the trademarks. If it was here, it was created while you were here, you use it while you're here, we own it. And then Scott Hall makes the jump, right? Kicks off the NWO and all that. Well, he had certain mannerisms with the toothpick and the Jerry curl and all these things. That's our IP, that's our character. And so they created this fake Razor, fake Diesel to say, look, it's plug and play. It doesn't have to be Scott Hall. It doesn't have to be Kevin Nash. It could be anybody. It could be Glenn Jacobs, right? So that's a trademark. And then you got copyright. It's the other big intellectual property. And copyright covers the expression of an idea. So not an idea itself. right? And so what I mean by that, when we talk about an idea is, oh, boy falls in love with girl, girl's family doesn't like boy's family doesn't like girl's family, they're in conflict. Is that Romeo and Juliet or is that West Side Story? Right? What's copyright is that it happened in New York, that it's gangs, it's not blood families, or it happened in Italy and there's sword fights and there's a suicide and it's a fake suicide and then a real suicide. That's the copyright, not the idea, because the ideas are just ideas. Nobody can own an idea. It's how you put the meat on those bones of the idea that gives you the copyright.
I have so many questions right now. So, okay, going back to what you're talking about with trademark, with the fake Diesel and fake Razor Ramon. So Scott Hall was Razor Ramon, and he portrayed that with the toothpick and the, like you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
So with the trademark, do you have to trademark mannerisms also, or do you how could he not go to WCW and do those things if he didn't use the name?
Yeah, so no, not necessarily. There's only really been one threatened lawsuit. I don't even know that it got to the point of a filing for a hand gesture, right? DDP and Jay-Z. Word is that there was some settlement and Jay-Z paid him off. Word is hand gestures can be trademarked. I'm not aware of any. I've kind of splashed around to find some. But as far as mannerisms and characters and all of that, that's more copyright, right? That's the meat on the bones. It's a guy who's a fake drug dealer type, Cuban, wears the floral patterns and things that somebody from Miami might wear, and the gold chains and the open shirt and all that. That's more character stuff. When Scott Hall came over, his hair was his hair. The toothpick thing was actually something he had done in the AWA. That actually wasn't WWE's, but nobody in WCW had ever done the research.
Well, he did, the Diamond Stud. I was going to ask you if
that's right. Diamond Stud. You could have won that. Yeah, they could have won that part of it, but that's more copyright, right? Okay. Because you're putting the meat on the bones of this character and exactly what it was. But when he showed up, he was wearing a t-shirt and jeans,
right?
Or I guess he had a vest, but he wasn't floral. He wasn't necessarily, Cuban or Puerto Rican or anything like that. So that's why he could do some of those mannerisms, but not necessarily all of them, because at that point he wasn't Razor Ramon anymore. He was Scott Hall.
Right. So the other question I have, and I'm not asking for specific details, but I think it's interesting. I think sometimes people think, as the gimmick attorney, we see the pictures of you, they all have their little piece of paper, that it's just that easy. But you were talking about how you gave Conrad a proposal. And so I was just curious to what all would go, again, not asking specifics, but what all goes into a proposal, and what are you looking at as intellectual property or things that would fall under this trademark for, if you were wanting to do business for someone or whatever.
Yeah. So you don't get to own words just outright, right? You don't get to own Leo Rush outright for all things. When you are protecting a trademark, when you're protecting it as a source identifier, you have to provide information about, source for what goods or what services. And the way the trademark office works is there's about 45 classes of goods and services. Could you protect all 45 classes? Sure. If you're using your trademark in all 45 classes for all the different sorts of goods and all the different sorts of services, you could protect it. But when you do that, you're going to pay a government filing fee for each of those 45 classes. So now your costs are just going way up, right? So you got to really hone in on, what goods are you protecting? What services are you protecting? And then you have to go out and do a search. You need to find, hey, am I walking into a buzzsaw if I pick this? If I pick this name and pick this trademark, is there somebody else out there that was using it first? Because rights in a trademark come from use, not from registration. There's a whole lot of reasons why you should get a registration, and it's important to get a registration, not the least of which is it makes it easier on social media to knock out fake accounts and people that are kind of catfishing and that sort of thing using your trademark. If you go to Instagram and you go to Twitter and you say, hey, I own this trademark, and you don't have a registration, they're going to throw their hands up and say, well, I don't know if you do or don't. You're telling me that you used it first. You're telling me that it's your trademark, but I have no evidence of it. You show them a federal registration, they say, yeah, that's yours, and they'll rip those other catfish accounts down. But the proposal for Conrad was, hey, here's all the different podcasts you have, here's the shows that you have, and here's the things you're doing. You have entertainment services in the nature of podcasts. If you're doing live traveling shows, that's a different kind of thing. Merchandise, you're selling koozies and keychains and stickers and all of that. That's a class. You're selling clothing and t-shirts and hats and bandanas and all that. That's a different class. And so I kind of went through all the different options. Here's the different trademarks. Here's the different catchphrases you're using for each of those trademarks. And here's the different goods or services. Here's what it would cost if you did all of it. But I don't tell people to do everything. I say, if you want to, let's do it. But I recommend, hey, be judicious, because it could get real expensive real fast just on government filing fees. So maybe consider these. These, I think, are the most important ones. If you want to cover the other stuff too, cool. But this is what I would do. And so that's why that was the proposal. And that's what we talked about.
Cool.
Well, you mentioned using things, different things in different spaces. Like, this is going to sound silly, but like take Rusev. He couldn't be Rusev in AEW. He's Miro, and I believe that you actually trademarked Miro for him. Let's say that the adult film industry reached out to him, and that's something he wanted to do. And they say, we got an idea. We're going to bring you in. We're going to do a whole series, and we're going to call the series Rusev Smash. Because it's not the wrestling space, it's the adult film industry space. Could he be Rusev in that area, and WWE couldn't do anything about it?
The short answer is no, he couldn't. And here's why. So when it comes to trademark infringement, you're looking at this weird balance of the similarity of the trademarks and the relatedness of the goods or services. So in the instance you gave me, the trademarks are identical, right? Rusev and Rusev.
Right.
And when you talk about the relatedness of the services, well, it's all a matter of opinion, right? I mean, adult film is obviously not professional wrestling, and professional wrestling is obviously not adult film. But that's looking at the 200-foot level. From the 1,000-foot level, they're both entertainment services. They're both television products or movie products or film products, or some sort of audiovisual product, right? It's audiovisual service, I guess. And so from that level, they kind of are the same. So, because if somebody else came along, it was Rusev, and they became an adult film star, it's a little more tenuous. But because you're talking about one particular person who played that character in WWE, and now he's going to be a Rusev character in adult film, now you've got this nexus of connection, right? It's not just Pondwater Dave decides he's going to be Rusev and do adult film Rusev Smash. Still, probably they could stop.
The reason I use that is because of China. She was China in WWE. She changed the spelling, and she was China in TNA, and then she did adult films and used China.
Didn't she in TNA go by China Doll?
China Doll, but she also, I think she changed the spelling.
Yeah. Well,
but what I'm saying is that, but she bridged that gap, and that's why I brought up that correlation in that industry, because she did it.
Yeah. So there's what's
sure, Dave.
There's what's legal and there's what's right. And so I think WWE would have a hard time in that instance, especially in that particular time, making the claim that she can't do it, because this is the same company that took Taz from ECW and said, well, if we slap another Z on it, it's different and we own it. They took Rhino from ECW and said, well, that was spelled with an I, we're going to spell it with a Y. That's different and we own it. So on one hand, they're doing things like that. And on the other hand, they'd be saying, well, you can't be China with a Y instead of an I, or whichever was which. And you can't do that because they've already done those sorts of things, right?
Yeah.
It would also go ahead.
No, you finish.
It would also draw attention to the fact that one of their superstars, former superstars, is now doing adult film, right? It's going to make the news. And that was always the argument about why China had not been inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, was that, hey, little kids watch this show, and when we say that, Joni Lauer or China goes into the Hall of Fame, and this kid goes and Googles it, the last thing I need them pulling up is porn, right? And so it draws attention to it. So I'm sure there was a lot that went in their decision about what to do, what not to do, what's different enough and what's not different enough. And we don't know who was on the inside, right? Who of her friends that was there still associated with the company. Shawn Michaels, for example, might have been like, hey, man, just leave her be. She's just trying to make a living. Can you guys not do this? Because Vince and those guys would listen to people and would kind of do those favors of, you're right. We'll let it be. If it becomes a problem, we're going to have to take action. But as long as there's not a problem, we'll let it go.
So it's kind of up to the industry or the person, because like you were saying, they went from Taz with 1 Z to Taz with 2 Zs. Are they almost like, what is ECW going to do? Like, they're not going to pursue it. So that's okay. Or is there like a legal, like the spelling has to be different, or like to patent Taz with the 2 Zs or to use it?
So
I don't know if I'm making any sense. No.
Yeah. What matters legally is phonetics. The spelling
Okay.
really doesn't matter,
Okay.
right? So if you're nails with an S, and
Right.
somebody else comes along and they're nails with a Z, that's legally the same. You'll be
Right.
able to stop that from happening, right? So intentional misspellings or misspellings don't matter. It's phonetics, right? How is it pronounced? What is it really
Right.
called? What's the words? And so in the instance of Taz, obviously I wasn't there at the time, but I think part of what went into it is ECW didn't own Taz.
Okay.
Taz owned Taz. Pete owned Taz.
Mhm.
And ECW owned if they even had written contracts, and I don't think they had a lot of them. They had handshake deals and verbal contracts and this sort of thing. But to the extent they had contracts, their contracts weren't like WWE's that would have said, hey, whatever wrestling name you go by here, we as a company own it. Just like
Right.
WCW's wouldn't have said that, at least not in their early contracts, which is why
Right.
people could go to WCW as a certain name and leave and still be that name. But what ECW did own was show names, pay-per-view names, the name of the company, all of those different
Okay.
things. And so when Taz leaves ECW and goes to WWE, they have him sign a contract and like, well, you're famous for being Taz, but we need to own the IP. So we're going to add a Z, and that's different enough. Sign here, sign your contract here. And that's what happens with wrestlers a lot, which is part of why I got into it, was people not knowing what they don't know.
Right.
And getting kind of taken advantage of. They're just excited for the opportunity. They're happy to sign whatever contract.
Sure.
So they sign it and they get
Sure.
hosed. And so it was really more of a Taz issue and less of an ECW issue.
Got you. Is there like a certain time frame on patents or trademarks? So like Leo Rush, we saw him. Is he Leo Rush for life? Because you talked about how Carl Anderson had some things that were trademarked, but they had been abandoned. So, and I've seen that before where things, I guess, time runs out or they don't renew it. And so different, like you said, pay-per-views names are up for grabs and different things like that.
Yep.
How exactly does that work?
So a trademark is perpetual, as long as you're
Okay.
using it, right? You have
Mhm.
trademark rights in it, but if you don't have a registration, what you have is called common law rights. Common
Okay.
law rights is you have rights wherever you're using the trademark, which means you're falling under state law. So if you're doing, Maryland Championship Wrestling, shout out to Dan McDivitt. If you're doing MCW stuff up there in the Northeast, wherever they might go, so Pennsylvania and Maryland and Connecticut and wherever they have shows, that's where you'd have your rights. And if they're not doing anything anywhere else, you have no rights anywhere else. So somebody could go be that same character name and they're up in Washington and Oregon and Utah and all that because you're in different parts of the country and you're not anywhere in the middle meeting up. And the likelihood of confusion is very unlikely because people aren't that guy in the Northwest isn't using your trademark in the East and you're not using his trademark in the Northwest. So that's why you can coexist. That's one of the big reasons why you get a federal registration. Then you have federal rights. You can stop people nationally speaking. So once you have a registration, so again, use can last forever. As long as you're still doing whatever, offering the services or have products out there, you still have valid trademark rights. When you get a registration, it's good as soon as you get that registration issued, the certificate, just like we showed in the pictures. That's good for 5 years. 5 years later, you have to renew it. You got to pay, not shockingly, you have to pay some government filing fees. You pay the government filing fees, it's good for another 5 years. So now we're at 10 years past your registration. Once you get to that 10 years, you renew it for 10 years. So it's 1, 5, 10, 20, 30, 40 for as long as you want it. Coca-Cola has trademarks that go back to the 1800s. Certain colleges have trademarks that go back to the 1800s. So the registration does have to be renewed from time to time. But you could still, even without a registration, you could still have trademark rights in perpetuity.
All right. Efren's in our chat, and Efren has had an interesting run-in with WWE over this. Feel free to tell the story of how WWE said nope to my idea of WrestleGamia.
Yeah, I mean, that was they're very protective of WrestleMania, just like the NFL is very protective of the big game or Super Bowl. The Red Cross is hypersensitive about Red Cross and Red Crosses. The Olympic Committee, I mean, you don't, can you think of anybody who's ever used the word Olympics on a grand scale other than the Special Olympics? The answer is no. Budweiser's never had beer Olympics. There's never, we colloquially will say that we're having beer Olympics, but they are hyper protective of the word Olympics and the Olympic rings. WWE is very similar with WrestleMania, and it's one of those, could we have fought them? WrestleMania versus WrestleGamia? Yeah, we could have fought them. Do I think we would have had a good chance? It wasn't a zero chance, right? But you're talking about a multi-billion-dollar multinational behemoth that would drag this thing out until the end of time. And so, we, if I'm remembering right, Efren, I can pull it up and look. I think we got it approved, and it got to the publication step. So when you're registering a trademark, after it's gone through the process where the attorney in the trademark office has reviewed and examined something, they'll eventually approve it and say, hey, we're going to publish it. And we're going to give 30 days for anybody at all, anybody in the public, any company, to say, hey, trademark office, you screwed up. You shouldn't have allowed this. Here's why you shouldn't have allowed it. Here's the rights that I have, or whatever the reason is. And if they oppose it during that 30 days, you kind of get into this administrative trial. So it's discovery and depositions and all of that if people want to take them. But you're basically arguing with the trademark office about, hey, you shouldn't have allowed it, or yes, you should allow it, and here's why. And so I think, if I'm remembering right, that's where we got where the trademark office actually didn't have a problem with it at all, but WWE did. And so at that point, it's one of those, I mean, if we want to fight it, we can fight it, but boy, it's going to get expensive, and it's going to get expensive fast. And so we decided not to throw good money at bad and just moved on. Yeah. They cited a bunch of different WrestleMania things that they have.
Oh, interesting. So when you
Dave,
were
you're
talking,
muted.
Oh, sorry. For those that don't know, Efren hosts, it's called the Game Event. He wanted to call it WrestleGamia. It's normally wrestling-based shows. He uses Jeopardy. He uses Price is Right, Wheel of Fortune. He's got access to, I don't know the exact number, but dozens of classic game show formats. And he'll do those for your private functions. He does those for ad-free shows regularly. Starcasts, Top Guy Weekend. They're always a hit. And if you wanted to reach out to Efren to do something for your company and have host like Family Feud, he can do that for you. But he wanted to do WrestleGamia in the wrestling space. Now it's the Game Event, but that's what happened. And thank you for sharing that with us, Efren. It was a great example that we could pick Mike's brain about.
whenever you were talking about they publish it, like I guess if there's a trademark coming up and they put it out there for kind of like anybody to see it.
Yep.
Okay, two things. Where is that published? And is that part of your job as the gimmick attorney? Like for people that you've done trademark work for, like that's a service that you do, like you peruse through that to make sure that there's nothing that's going to be coming up?
Yeah, there's the official trademark gazette, which
Okay.
I mean, it sounds super official, but I don't know how official it is. It's not something that's printed. I think at one time it might have been printed. It's not anymore.
Mhm.
It's just made available online. But when you file a trademark application, it is publicly viewable within 24 hours. It used to take about 3 or 4 days. So I'd tell people, hey, if you know you're going to debut this new thing and you want to get out in front of it and you're going to debut it on Wednesday, let's file it Monday or Tuesday just so we don't get behind the 8 ball and nobody can beat us to the punch. And then they got a lot faster and it became 24 hours. So then that's a conversation I always have is, hey, we're going to be spoiling anything? Should we wait? Oh, yeah, it's not going to happen till Wednesday. So, and you know how wrestling is, or maybe you don't, things change very quickly. And sometimes you've got something planned that's going to happen Wednesday and you get there Wednesday and you're ready for it. And then, oh, you know what? We're going to move that to Saturday's show, or we're going to move that to next Monday's show. And so oftentimes what I'll do is I'll have the application prepared and ready to click submit, but I'll wait. I'll wait until it actually happens.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. And so once it's filed, everything that happens after that 24 hours later is publicly viewable. Anything that's filed, anything that the trademark office does, any of those things becomes part of the public record. And so do I peruse them? No, but that is a service that companies exist to do that, where they have software built. I've got a client who does healthcare and insurance work. And so they said, hey, we're really sensitive to people using our trademarks as it relates to healthcare or as it relates to insurance. Can you guys monitor that? And I say, no, absolutely not. I wouldn't have the time to do it. But hey, there's this company over here and you can pay them a few $100 a year and they'll send weekly reports.
Oh, cool.
And every week they'll send this report and they'll say, hey, here's the stuff that came up based on the parameters we give them. We can tell them we want it to be the exact same trademark. We can tell them we want it to be a controller trademark. We can say we want it only for healthcare or healthcare and healthcare adjacent things. And so I get those reports for a number of different clients and I'll look at it and I'll go through them each week for the five or six different clients we do it for and say, hey, this isn't a problem. This isn't a problem. Hey, this one might be a problem. It's potentially actionable. And we try to get out in front, maybe even stop them before it publishes to say, hey man, just so you know, we're going to oppose this. You're going to have a problem. It's going to get real expensive, or you can just abandon it and move on. And, you know, we'll all let bygones be bygones.
Okay. And so, you know, that's kind of interesting how you're talking about how quickly it can happen now. Because like you said, 24 hours. Because you hear every so often, you'll hear it'll be on the internet or whatever, that WWE they've trademarked this whatever. So it's probably, that's just more a publicity ploy than probably anything. Or maybe they did actually have that idea, you know, like you'll hear like, oh, they've trademarked whatever, the Beast or something. So it gets people thinking, oh, what are they going to do? Who did that?
Yeah.
And then maybe nothing ever comes of it.
Well, it's all public record. So
that's right. And so what the dirt sheet writers do is they, you know, in the first thing in the morning or in the middle of the day, every day, they go and check. And what they're doing is searching for any new trademarks that have been filed in the last day or two that have the word wrestling or wrestler or sports entertainment in the description of goods or services. And that's why they see it. What's wild about all this stuff and this stuff that I do is I don't remember, I wasn't too into dirt sheets, you know, I didn't pay much attention to what they're doing, but I don't remember them talking a lot about trademarks before this thing really took off and I started doing what I started doing. And now I have to warn people, hey, when we file this, it's going to hit the dirt sheets. You're going to start getting people copying you and things and tagging you and things and whatever, because it's going to hit it. Well, can we avoid that? No, we can't. Unfortunately, it becomes public record within 24 hours. But now, you know, that's part of the news cycle. Every day is new trademark filings and the dirt sheets pick them up. It's kind of funny to me, but it didn't used to be a thing. It is now. Yeah,
it definitely gets people talking about, like, Bo Dallas, he, you know, I don't know, but you know, he's trademarked this. Like get you just talking, you know, about, well, what could they be doing? Or, they, you know, it ran out on whatever, the Great American Bash or, you know, different things like that. And they picked it up or whatever. So I think some of that's, I mean, it's really interesting, but I thought it was more of a longer process, I guess. And so if you're saying you're ready to hit submit and it goes through, then it makes you wonder what happened. Why did they, you know, get a copyright for something and maybe it didn't happen right away? Was that just a ploy, or did they have to, like you said, pivot on a dime and we were going to do this weekend and so-and-so got hurt, so now we're over here? I mean, it's just interesting. So
let's since we're talking about WWE, recently Cody and I say recently within like a year now, but Cody and Jey Uso were having fun in a press conference, and Jey started doing the yeet, and somebody on the Indies was doing the yeet, and it wasn't the person that I thought. My friend Ray Fury is part of his act is yeet yeet. Give me 2 claps and a yeet yeet. I mean, but it turned out somebody else had it. So when that happens and WWE infringes on somebody's trademark, I'm sure since yeet is still a thing, are they licensing the right to use yeet from him, or did they buy yeet from him outright?
Let's look it up. So, when that first started, I got a text message in the middle of the night. Hey, Dockins, this is Jey Uso. He's using this phrase yeet, and he's going to use it in wrestling, and I think he should trademark it. Can you help him? And that's when I went and looked and said, well, actually, there's somebody out there who's already got it trademarked related to wrestling. Oh, shit. Seriously? Oh, wow. Is there anything we can do? Could we buy it? Could we do this? Could we do that? And the answer is yes. If you want to buy it, we can reach out to them. We can take care of that. And it just kind of died where that was. Fast forward to it makes the news cycle that they had to pull all the yeet stuff down. Well, that's because that independent guy got wind of it, right? And yeah, he assigned it to WWE. His name was Casey Scott Huffman. At least that was his legal name. Assigned it to WWE. So, when I stopped having contacts about it, that's usually when WWE says, "Hey, we're going to take care of this." And so they reached out to that guy and that guy's attorney, who I assume sent them a cease and desist letter, and they worked out a deal. And the guy sold it to him. And so now WWE's free to use it, free and clear. They own it for wrestling services, and they also registered it. Well, it's pending. It's pending for clothing and clothing merchandise. But so to answer your question, Dave, it's not a license. They bought that person's rights. They might have licensed it back to him. I don't know, because it's like I said, it's an indie guy, and it's not somewhere.
The problem is it doesn't matter how long you've been doing something on the indies. Once it makes television, the next time you do it on the indies, you're accused of ripping off WWE.
Yeah, in the trademark law. This is nerd stuff. It's called the overtaking junior user, right? Where WWE is actually the junior user. They have inferior rights to you because they didn't use it first. You used it first, but they have the much bigger platform, the much bigger outreach, and so they become the overtaking junior user. That you can stop them, right? You can create some headaches for them as the person who used it first, and that's why money talks. Yeah, and you can make this problem go away when it's an indie guy who might be working for a couple $100 and a hot dog, all of a sudden gets offered thousands of dollars, maybe tens of thousands of dollars. They're going to take it, especially if they can keep using it. Now, they might make the business decision of, well, I'm just going to be accused of being a Jey Uso ripoff. I'm going to go ahead and move on to something else. Take my check.
Yeah. Well, while we're talking about Ray Fury, and I noticed that you did some work for Sting, his face paint.
Yep.
You've done some work for Danhausen, his face paint.
Yep.
This is one of Ray Fury's masks. Ray Fury wears different colors. He does different colors, different styles, but the core of his masks, and they've always been this way. This is distinctly Ray Fury. So, would it be in Ray Fury's best interest, at the very least? I mean, you would think that he'd get a mark for his name, but would it be smart for him to also get a trademark for this style of mask? Because this is his identity. Yeah,
I do.
The way the fringe on the back. Yeah, that's definitely
But the short answer is yes. And Rey Mysterio, as far as I know, last I saw, did not have a trademark registration for his masks, but that's because his masks change. They're different every time. I mean, it's almost never the same mark. And so if it's not the same, then what do you really have as a trademark, right? Because it's different. We know it's Ray because of who he is, his stature, the move set, and all of those things. But it's not the same thing. Danhausen's makeup is 95% of the time the same. He'll do some special stuff here and there. Same with Sting. You know, he'll do some stuff with Darby where he was half Darby, half Sting, and Darby was half Sting, half Darby, right? They've done that. And that's fine because 95% of the time, Sting's makeup is the same. So if what Ray Fury's doing, color is fine because you can file in a way that it doesn't claim color as a portion of the trademark. So if Sting wanted to start doing the face makeup and he wanted to make it silver and pink, that's fine. His trademark still covers it. He wants to make it black and white, cool, covers it. Blue and red, fine, totally covered. Same for Danhausen, because that's the way we filed it. We filed it so that it was independent of a particular color scheme. Yeah. So if Ray's wearing the same mask and just switching up the color scheme, absolutely protectable. If he's changing up the mask and has differences and variations every time, that's a different conversation.
But he does have the core. But he does have the core Rey Mysterio type logo around so is that more of a style?
Well, so the problem with that is that there's legal and then there's the kind of administrative stuff that the trademark office does. And the trademark office, they want to see that something is exactly what you filed. And so when you go and provide evidence of use and show this mask and there's some variation to it, they're going to reject it. Or what they're going to say is, well, you're claiming, Mike, that the portion around the face of Rey Mysterio, that's the trademark. But what people actually see, the actual trademark, is the entire mask. And so you filed for the wrong thing. Is it worth trying? I would think it's worth trying to try to get just the mouth part. I don't know that they're going to go for it, though, because they're going to say, no, you can't pull out the mouth part from the rest of the mask, the top and the eyes and whatever else. You can't do that. It's inseparable. And because it's inseparable, you don't have anything here. Your specimen's not matching, and we're going to reject it.
Okay. I found it fascinating because when I saw that you had done it was a big deal that you did the Sting and Danhausen, because it's not, if I'm not mistaken, that's the first time that's been face paint has been done.
Yes.
Isn't it?
Yes.
In the wrestling space.
It's one of the coolest things that I've been a part of. Honestly, I tell people that all the time. Oh, what's the stuff you're most proud of in your career? And that's one of the things. Is that, before Danhausen was with AEW, he was just an indie darling and out doing indie stuff. Got introduced to me through our mutual friend, Dave Hancock. And Dave said, hey, Danhausen, I don't know if you know him or know anything about him, but he's got some really fun sayings and he's getting really popular. He needs some trademark help. So I talked to Donovan and, we talked through the different trademarks. Actually, I just got one of them in the mail today. Very nice, very evil.
There you go.
But he said, so Donovan and I were talking about what he could do. And so obviously we did Danhausen. We did Very Nice, Very Evil. We did, I don't know. Let me look it up. There's a few different ones that we've done for him. And he goes, what I'm really worried about is my makeup. I'm worried about somebody knocking off my makeup and coming out as me and whatever. And so we did Danhausen. We did his logo. Oh, that was his face makeup. We did Very Nice, Very Evil, and Love That Danhausen. Those are the ones we did. He said, I'm worried about people knocking that off. Is my face makeup a trademark? I said, it is. If somebody came out in a cloak and all of this and all they could see was a face and that's what they saw was that makeup, they would think it was you. And it could be anybody, right? It could be anybody that has your makeup on. So of course
there's no way Kiss hadn't done that.
And so we talked about it and I said, I'm not aware of anybody having ever done it in wrestling. He's like, well, what about the Road Warriors? And I looked it up. I'm like, nope, not the Ultimate Warrior. Now we started going through different face makeup people and we couldn't find anything. Now WWE had at one time, I don't know if they still do, the face paint that the Warrior had, but not as the face paint. It was like for goods, for like on T-shirts and things, right? It was just things like that.
They had those masks when they put him in the Hall of Fame. Everybody in the crowd was wearing them.
But it wasn't for wrestling services, right? And so I said, well, why not? I mean, it's worth a shot. There's no reason it can't be. Conceptually, it's absolutely a trademark. And so he said, well, let's go for it. Let's give it a try. What's the worst case scenario? I'll just, waste a little bit of money. And so we got it filed and we got a rejection, and they said, hey, it's not a trademark. And I said, man, there has to have been makeup that people have trademarked. I bet Kiss has trademarked their makeup. And every single one of them has a registration for their face makeup. And the Starman and Gene Simmons and all of them, all four of them have a face paint trademark from, I want to say it's the 70s. It might have been the 80s that they did it. And I thought, well, who else would have makeup potentially trademarked? I wonder if McDonald's ever did anything. Sure enough, there's Ronald McDonald face paint sort of makeup trademarked. And so I went back to the trademark office and I said, hey, I mean, you're wrong. The tenet of a trademark is that it's a source identifier. And when people see a person with this sort of makeup on, they identify it with this particular performer for these wrestling services. And this is not without precedent. Take a look here at what Kiss has done and cited all of those. Take a look here at what McDonald's has done, cited all of those. And so then they said, you know what, you're right. It is a trademark, but the specimen that you gave us, the evidence of use, is not exactly like your drawing. So we're going to reject it for that. And I said, take a look at the Gene Simmons registration and take a look at what specimens they used. And I did that for each one, reproduced copies of the things that they had filed, and particularly the McDonald's one, where what they filed looked like a cartoon. And the specimen that they filed was an actual person, a person in makeup and a wig and whatever. And so you guys have accepted it. It's proven that you don't have to be spot on exact in this sort of circumstance, because it'd be impossible to reproduce it, but it still serves as a trademark. And they said, yeah, you know what, you're right. And they issued the Danhausen trademark for the makeup. And I'll turn my camera around. You can see where I got an idea and framed him. But that's when I had known Sting. I had not done work for him, but had knew him and said, hey, just so you know, this is a thing. It had never been done in wrestling before. It has been done now. You might want to consider it, talk to your people about it. And, next thing you know, he says, hey, yeah, let's do it. So I was talking with Cardona and Myers, and they said, this is really cool. You should get a signed mask and frame it. So that's the trademark for Sting, and that's his signed mask. And then that's the OG. That's Danhausen. They said you should do that and frame it and shadow box it and put it in your office. And so there we have it. So yeah, this is the first time.
So cool. I had to quit listening to Mark Cardona so much because he was costing me a lot of money.
The most expensive free podcast is what they call it.
Exactly. Yeah. Did you have to prove that Danhausen did his makeup the same every time he made an appearance, or so what? How does that work? I guess.
No, I mean, it doesn't have to be exactly the same, but it needs to be real close, right? It can't be wild variations, but of course there's going to be a little more red or a little more black, or it's going to be longer up here instead of being that's going to happen. And minor variations that don't substantially change the commercial impression of the trademark are okay. And so in trademark world, if you add a space or subtract a space, so it's two words, now we're going to mash them together, make it one. That has been found to not create a substantially different commercial impression. We're going to hyphenate it. Now we're going to take the hyphen out. Doesn't change the commercial impression. Those are always safe. But so something like that, it would be fine.
Okay.
Ooh,
that's
Efren said Alice Cooper. Efren also says, so are you dealing with one person at the trademark office, like someone who decides your benefits at Social Security, or is it a board of people? Is it a matter of the luck that you get the right person?
Yeah, it's not the same person. I wish it was, because there are some very reasonable people to deal with. Unfortunately, it's not. I refer to it all the time as examiner roulette. And sometimes you get somebody who's great, who's very easy to work with, who is not a particular, they're not a stickler about particularities. They just want, they're reasonable, right? That's all you really want is somebody reasonable. And boy, other times you just get the most unreasonable people. Sometimes English isn't their first language.
Oh. And
so you're practically teaching them English. Because what happens is the trademark office does kind of foreign exchange things. So they'll send some of their trademark attorneys over to, Vietnam or whatever. And Vietnam will send some of their trademark attorneys over here, and everybody learns everybody's processes and all of this. So it's roulette. Sometimes you get good people, sometimes you don't. There are, I don't know how many hundreds, but there are hundreds of trademark examining attorneys.
Well, before we get you out of here, I'm gonna bring this up, and I want to. you've adopted getting the picture. As long as I've known you, you've been about always get the picture. So, and I think it's cool that you do this. And here you are with David Crockett.
Yep.
I think that's cool that you would think that he would have owned Jim Crockett Promotions.
They never filed for it. They never had it.
Isn't that crazy?
The picture thing came about completely by accident. It was during the pandemic, and I was down in Jacksonville and was with Conrad and Dave Silva, and we're down there, and I had the Voice of Wrestling for Jim Ross. And I brought it with me to give to Jim because it was just a thing. Like, and I wasn't going to give these to people in like a manila envelope or, just hand it to them. I was like, well, what can I do? I'm like, oh, I can get some frames. These are cheap, inexpensive frames, but at least it's something to help protect it. And, I want people to be proud of this. I want them to be proud that they spent the money, that they own it, that it's theirs, that it's their brand. And whenever I was getting ready to give Jim Ross his, I said, hey, Silva, get a picture of this. Because I don't know how much more I'm going to interact with Jim. This might be the only time that I ever really do anything with him or for him or, any of that. So I want to capture this moment for myself. And so that's really where it came from, was just like, this is a cool thing that I want to remember. This is for me. And then I posted it. And when I posted it, it got a lot of attention and people really liked it. And I'm like, well, shoot, this is easy content. So I'm just going to start doing this like every time I get it. And Dave, I print out an 8x10 every time, and I've got a binder of them sitting here in my office right behind me. I've got a binder of all the different pictures of different people.
Yeah, you'd fill up a wall pretty quick at the rate you're going.
Yeah, I mean, there's I think this is 50 pages, and it's got one page left. 50 pages, that might be one-sided, so it might be 100, right? But I did it for me. It was for me to remember, like, some of these people, I might not ever really interact with them ever again. So I want to remember it. And so that's why I did it. And the take the picture thing came from, Dax of FTR, and they were really good friends. Both Dan and Dave were good friends with Brody Lee, with John Huber. And around the same time, they got to AEW, and Brody Lee won the TNT championship and FTR won the tag team championships. I want to say a week apart, maybe they won their respective belts. And they were all so excited for each other to be doing something they loved in a new place where they felt more appreciated, where they felt like they had more freedom. And they were so happy to be there. And they were so happy to be there together. Like, man, we got to get a picture together, the three of us, with our belts. Like, yeah, hell yeah, let's do it. Well, I don't have my belt this time. I'll have it next week. Okay, whatever. And then John got sick. They never got the picture. And somebody took a picture of them independently and photoshopped it together, and it looks really good. And then I think they made it like a Paint My Life or something like this, where they had it painted. And so what Dax said to me, he was like, Mike, always take the picture, because you just don't know what's going to happen. And so that's when I started harping on, you, Dave, and all the guys in the group chat about whatever. I'm like, always take the picture. And if Efren's still here, when we were at Top Guy Weekend, he got done doing the game event. We had a blast doing it. It was a lot of fun. And we got done, and we're back in the green room. And, he's shaking hands with everybody that participated and thanking him like he does. Very gracious host. And he had gone up to Bischoff and Jason Hervey and, thank them and whatever. And I was like, hey, Efren, you want to get a picture? And he was like, no, I'm never going to ask. And I go, fuck you. You don't have to ask. I'll ask. I'll do it. I'll be that guy. He goes, no, I don't want to do it. And I was like, hey, Jason, Eric, do you mind? And Efren's like, and at that point, he couldn't say no, right?
Yeah.
We got in the picture. But like, when else is he ever going to be? God willing, it happens again. And he's there with Jason Hervey, and he's there with Bischoff, and we're all having a good time again. But it might not ever happen again. So always get the picture. And I'm so not bashful about asking people for other people to do it, right?
I early in my wrestling career, Red Bastien was at PCW in the locker room, and I asked if I could take a picture with. And I mean, that was a no in 2006. And I mean, it's just recently gotten to where it's kind of okay to ask for the pictures, and I've gotten to where I'm getting better about it, because I mean, I'm good about going and getting pictures with legends, but I need pictures with people I'm working with. and not just the national guys that come through, the guys that like Ray Fury. I get a picture with Fury every chance I get because I mean he's a friend, and but you don't want to be a mark in the locker room, and I'm sure that Efren's thinking that if he asked for the picture, that he would lose access. Efren's asking for pictures back here. We're not going to let him in next time. I know that's what he was thinking. He didn't tell me that. I'm the same way. Because in the green room, it's your, mouth shut, ears open.
Yeah, you're spot on. I think that's exactly what it was. And even, with this picture that's up here with our buddy Conrad, when he did StarCast, was it 3 in Baltimore, is when he got Sting to come back and be Surfer Sting. It was the first time he had done it in decades, as far as I know. He'd always just do the Crow stuff. And it was the anniversary of him winning the title in Baltimore, right? And so Conrad convinced him to get his red, white, and blue jacket out of storage, paint his face red, white, and blue, and do all this. And I remember sitting there talking with Conrad about how geeked I was because I'm such a big Sting fan. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to wait till the line dies down. Then I'm going to go get a picture with him because this is super cool. 8-year-old Mike would lose his mind that this is happening.
It's probably the only photo op he's ever offered that I've just physically crushed that I didn't get, didn't get to go to. I didn't get to go, didn't get that.
And Conrad goes, yeah, me too. When the line's dead, come get me. Come get me. I want to get a picture too. And so, I was doing laps and doing whatever I do. And saw there were just a couple people left. So I hustled back to the green room. I'm like, hey man, Sting's line's almost done. Well, let's go. Like, let's hop in when everybody's finished. Cause there's only a couple left. And Conrad's like, nah, I can't do it. I'm like, why? He's like, I'm the promoter. He's here because of me. It's like, I just don't want to be, I don't want to be a mark and I don't want to be whatever. And I was like, are you sure? Come on, man. This is you made this happen. This is super cool. And he was like, nah, I can't do it. I can't do it. It's like, okay. So I left and I went and I was a mark and I don't care.
Yeah.
And got my picture and it was done. And there were some back hallways. And so it's like, hey, Steve, I can take you back to your driver. I'll walk you back through the hallways. So we go around the back and we're wherever. And here's your driver and here's the back entrance and you can get out and nobody's going to bother you. And he goes, hey, I'd like to say thanks to Conrad and say bye to him. I said, oh yeah, of course. Just wait right here. So he's waiting in the back hallway. I go grab Conrad. Conrad comes out and, they shake hands and they chit chat and they talk for a minute. Megan comes out. Megan had known him forever, of course, because of her dad and whatever. And I was like, oh, this is my chance. And I was like, hey, can I get a picture of you two together? Because I never thought I'd see this ever. And Conrad, you made it happen. And Steve, you're here doing it. This is super cool. I want to get a picture of this. And they're like, oh yeah, of course. And Conrad gave me one of those Conrad looks. And so I took the picture and whatever and sent it to him. And, Steve left and it was great and walked away. And I just put my arm around Conrad. I was like, love you, buddy. I knew you weren't going to tell me no. If you're mad at me, whatever. You got the picture now. And he was not mad at me, of course. But.
Yeah, Conrad doesn't understand that most of these guys probably want to take a picture with him.
Hell yes, they do.
Yeah. There's Eric. Got him 83 weeks.
Yep.
What does that say?
God's Hate. That's his band.
Okay. I couldn't. I don't have my glasses on.
I've noticed there's a string of questions that people put in here, so I'm going to run through a couple of them, Dave.
I was going to get you because we're running out of time. I told you 30, 45 minutes, and we're already gone an hour.
Nah, it's all good.
And there's Mercedes.
Yeah.
And this guy he's your biggest customer, right?
It's either him or Jericho. They might be 1A and 1B. They're pretty close to the same.
They reinvent themselves weekly.
Yeah.
And then Nigel. And that's timely.
Yep.
Because he'll be on television tomorrow night.
Ben Jones asked about, do all trademarks cost the same? If not, how's each fee calculated? Legal services are the same. The cost difference will come up when there's multiple classes, right? If you've got 3 or 4 or 5 classes, the class fee is the same. There's 2 different ways to file it. One way it's $250. The other way it's $350. But so the government filing fee is the same. It just depends on how many fees you have. So by and large, it's all the same. Let's see. What's the next one?
So
down?
if you were gonna do Pondwater Dave, you would really only have to do it in the podcast space, right?
Yep. I mean, you could do merchandise if you wanted to.
Huh?
Well, so the podcast space is the entertainment services space, which would include wrestling and, refereeing. So if you were going to do some refereeing as Pondwater Dave, it would be the same fee, right? I can cram as much into that that class as I can. And so that's why how I help people get their money's worth out of their fee.
Would it cover the say like my T-shirt?
It wouldn't. That'd be a separate class.
It has to be a separate mark. Okay.
Merchandise.
I'm with you.
Efren said, explain real expensive. He's talking about the opposition. So an opposition in a highly contested case can get into the six figures. It almost doesn't ever get that high because people get worn out of the legal fees in the fight. But, once you're started, count on 10 or 15 grand within the first couple months, probably up to 30 or 40 grand within 6 months. And if people are still engaged after discovery and all of that, that's when you start getting over $100,000, and it can get to 200, 300,000. It can get expensive very fast. Again, depends on how engaged everybody is. Am I a Meltzer Keller fan? Again, from Efren. I don't dislike them. I think now that I'm behind the curtain a lot and know a lot of what is happening with certain conflicts or contract negotiations or things, there is so much made up nonsense. And while Eric and Bruce kind of go a little too hard, I think sometimes they're not wrong. A lot of it is made up or stuff that's been fed to them by somebody maybe that they trust and believe. Do I dislike them personally? No, I take it for what it's worth. It's entertainment. It's fun to speculate. It's like conspiracy theory podcasts. I listen to them because it's entertainment, not because I believe there's actually some big conspiracy theory, but people have taken the time to put mental thought and trying to connect dots that just aren't connected. And it's fascinating. I think it's interesting. Any interactions with Jerry McDivitt? Yeah, a few before he retired. I did. The specifics of which I can't get into, but very nice guy. I like him. He's very smart, was very successful, made a lot of money on WWE. Worked at one of the biggest firms in the country. But a good guy. I like him a lot. Hated trademark, but no, not at least not as far as I know. Not in court, and not in an opposition or cancellation. Now, I've had clients say, I'm just not going to pay for it. And, I'm not, if they want to oppose it, let them oppose it. Certainly that's happened, but substantively to say, no, this never should have happened and you're wrong and this should be taken away from you. No, that's not happened. It can happen, right? I've tried cases and I've taken cases to a jury and I've won for my clients. That's one of my other proud moments in law is I had a client that was in the craft brewery business, and they had a trademark that they'd been using for 15 years, but they were trying to build craft breweries before that was a thing. They were starting in the 90s, and now we're talking about the 2010s, 2012 time period. And they'd been using this mark forever. Well, this distillery comes along and adopts the exact same mark. And we said, hey, man, you guys filed before us. Now we filed in the trademark office. You need to abandon and pick a different mark because we used first. And the distillery said, no, we don't. We don't make beer. We make spirits. That's different enough. And the law disagrees. The law says wine, beer, spirits, taverns, pubs, they're all the same. Mm-hmm. And so you're wrong. You need to adopt a different mark. And they said, well, we disagree. So we went on to oppose them and we got through discovery and all of that. And they answered in one of their discovery questions, not only are we not going to stop, we're going to expand. We want to be worldwide. And that's when we realized, man, this is going to be a problem. We're going to have to sue. So we sued him. We sued him in federal court, had a 2.5-day trial, got all the way to the jury. It was the very end of this day. It's 5 or 6 o'clock and the judge sends the jury back and you start deliberating. Here's all the evidence, here's all the exhibits. And he said to us as attorney, he goes, don't go far. I know it's late in the day, but I wouldn't be surprised if we get a verdict back tonight. And we're like, there's no way we're going to get a verdict back tonight, but okay. So we went down the road about 10 minutes, 15 minutes to a bar to get some food. We weren't drinking because we knew we might have to come back to court. And so we order a bunch of snacks and food and whatever because we hadn't had anything since lunch. We didn't even get our food and we got a call from the judge. We have a verdict, come back. Holy shit. So we pay the bill, rush out, get back to the courtroom. Jury comes in, they read the verdict, and we won on everything. It took them less than an hour. It was an hour from when we left to when we got back and got the verdict. So it took them less than an hour to get to a verdict. They found for our client that we were right, that the other side was wrong. They were going to have to abandon their marks and all these things. And they awarded us. They didn't award us any damages. They said we were going to get damages, but there's going to be a separate hearing on how much those damages were going to be. Obviously, we're elated. We go out and celebrate, drink, and have a good time that night. Go back to the brewery, having a jolly good time. While we're at the brewery, the owner of the distillery calls the owner of the brewery and says, "Hey, can we have a call tomorrow? I want to talk about this. Let's see if we can get this resolved." And he goes, "Yeah, I didn't. There's enough room for everybody. I never wanted to do this, but I didn't have a choice, and I had to protect my brand." So he looks at me and says, "Mike, you're going to stay around tomorrow so you can be in the room for the call, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course." So he has the call, puts on speaker, and I'm sitting there silently, and they're talking through things. And she goes, "Hey, and if you don't mind," they figured out the resolution. Everything got worked out. We're not going to have to have any more hearings, no more damages stuff. We got that ironed out. She goes, "I'm going to have my attorneys put together the settlement agreement. And once that's resolved, do you mind if I hire Mike? I got really bad advice, and he clearly wiped the floor with us. That's the attorney that I want." And he smiled. He looked at me. He goes, "I absolutely think you should." And so now they're a client.
How about that?
That's one of my other proud, fun moments in trademark laws, when you beat them so bad that they want to hire you.
Well, Mac, I can't thank you enough for joining us tonight. This stuff is so fascinating. I love it when you do on ad-free shows, when you do Wrestling with the Law. Hey, you're doing some hosting duties now.
Oh, that was purely by accident. I don't think that's in my future. It was
Was it nerve-wracking?
It
was Tully
wasn't.
Blanchard.
It wasn't. I've known Tully for a while. I've broken bread with Tully and drank with Tully. I had asked Conrad a question about Tully, and he was like, "Man, I am sick as a dog, and I can't find anybody to host him tonight. Why don't you ask him yourself and host this thing?" And I'm like, "What now?" Like, "No, thanks." He goes, "Dude, I need you." I was like, "Look, if you need me, if you're saying you absolutely need me to do it, then I'll figure it out. But God, I don't want to do this." And he's like, "I need you." Okay. And so it was like on an hour and a half notice to try
Didn't
to
have time to get nervous about it.
Not really. What I was hoping was that Tully would remember more about it than he did. And so it was hard to pull some stuff out of him. I mean, God bless him, it was 30 plus years ago. So I get that. But I mean, it was fun.
Did you ask him how he blew up Jeff Jarrett in 2005?
I should have. And thanks for mentioning that, Dave. Tomorrow's Wednesday. I'm going to do a run-in with Conrad and Eric as they watch the Vince McMahon documentary on Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
I reached out to Conrad and I'm like, "Hey, a question that I am sure people are going to ask you and you guys might not know about is defamation, right? That people are talking about Vince and all these stories and whatever. Is there going to be criminal stuff aside? The trial, I'm not a criminal attorney. I know barely enough to be dangerous about criminal law. But as far as defamation and First Amendment rights, I said, let's talk about it. Let's tell defamation is one of the most misunderstood areas of the law. People always, it's defamation, that's libel, that's slander, and all this. So let's talk about it. Like, if you want me just to prime you and Eric and educate you guys on it, I'll do that. And Conrad goes, "Oh, hell no, go run in." So I'll be popping on with Eric and Conrad tomorrow to talk a little bit about it.
So cool. They're doing it as a watch along.
I don't think it's a watch along. I think it's a reaction. I think they're going to do a reaction after every episode.
Okay.
But yeah, so I'll be on with them tomorrow to talk a little bit about defamation. So when people are like, "Oh, Vince McMahon's going to sue Netflix and this, that, and the other," and well, probably not. And I'll explain why. It's not as easy as people think. And when you're a celebrity, it's a different standard.
Yeah. Well, thanks again for joining us. I can't.
Yeah, buddy. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me, Amy.
Thanks for giving me more time than I asked. I knew I was. Like I said, I could talk to you for hours, and hopefully we'll get a chance to do it in person soon.
Yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of stories that you'll find fascinating that I can't have recorded.
Yeah. All right, man. Thank
buddy.
you so much.
Good seeing you guys. Of course.
Love you, buddy.
Bye,
Love you too, man. Bye, Amy.
Bye-bye.
How cool was that, everybody? Mike Dockins.
That was really cool. Like you said, I really do think, I mean, I know I did. It was just like, I didn't know how much went into getting a trademark and what people have to do and what they can't do and that kind of stuff. I mean, that's really interesting. And I really wonder how the makeup, how that might open up some things, trademarking that. in the future and what else might get trademarked in the future. It's really cool, really cool.
Andrew, was it the Flint case that made the defamation for? Yeah, I'm sorry that I didn't see that, Andrew. I would have got it up there for you before I got him out of here. I told him, so, hey, you want him to spend about 30, 45 minutes with us? And an hour and 19 later.
Everybody knows that. They know, but we just get talking. It's not like we were, I mean, there's lots of questions.
Oh,
Our
God, we
group had
probably didn't get to
questions and
them
stuff.
all.
No, definitely, because I definitely could think of, like I said, sometimes I have the weird question, things that I want to know about, like who in the world wants to know about that but me.
Yeah.
But no, definitely, he's definitely has a interesting career, and yeah, I bet he could tell us a lot of good stories. And just like Darren and Andrew, talking about different cases that have been out there, I guess maybe we all just need to listen to 83 Weeks and see when he pops on there with, or not 83 Weeks, whenever they do this reaction show, to
Definitely.
hear what he has to say. I thought, now I could be confused. I think we're going to talk about it though. The little whatever thing that Vince McMahon put out, the post that he put
Yeah,
out.
we'll get to that in just a second. But Dockins, he's doing great work as the gimmick attorney. You might say that he's a champion in that field.
Definitely.
And if he was going to have a belt, maybe it would come from Big Time Belts. Big Time Belts, Facebook.com. High quality, low prices. The Queen of the Summit, SWA champion, got her belt from Big Time Belts. Our good friend Tim Robinson, who we want to send out condolences. He lost his brother.
Yes. I'm so sorry, Tim.
I'm so sorry, Tim. Tim's family. There's not a bad person in his family. They're a close bunch, and it breaks my heart that he lost his brother. And we're praying for you, Tim.
Definitely.
And Tim made his belt dreams come true from Big Time Belts. The women's belt is getting close. He told me this week that the concept art, the artwork's getting started. That he's going to move forward with that project. That guy, in 2008, he wanted belts.
Mm-hmm.
And now he don't have his promotion anymore, but he's got the belts and he'll have he's probably got some of the nicest belts. I mean, Big Time Belts has done him a great job. High quality, low prices, Big Time Belts, Facebook.com. Join the group. Join the group
Muhammad had a birthday not too long ago.
What's that?
Muhammad had a birthday not too long ago.
He did.
He did.
Day before yesterday, I believe. Happy birthday, Muhammad.
Yes, happy birthday. I didn't realize it was that close when you were talking about it.
All right.
You want to do the news? I'm sorry.
Yes.
We got some breaking news.
I'm getting tired of not having a producer.
Yeah, where is she?
But the playoffs start this weekend, so baseball season's then basketball season's going to be on it. I don't know if we're ever going to have a producer again.
Oh man,
I'm over here trying to do it all.
We're just a two-man team.
We're not going to have our nice little overlay because we're just going
to go with it, right?
Because we've had some big news this week in the world of wrestling.
We definitely had. So let's kick it off with the news of Ric Flair and Wendy Barlow have gone their separate ways.
Here's a picture of Rick and Wendy. Wendy was, for those that don't know, he's known her for well over 40 years. She was Fifi the Maid in WCW. And she was, they broke up before they got back together, but they're still friends. They're parting on good terms. Flair, a WWE Hall of Famer, married Wendy in 2018 after they reconnected years after a meeting in WCW. He had previously announced their split in 2022, but they rekindled their relationship shortly thereafter.
Exactly. In a recent post, Flair said, Wendy and I enjoyed 13 great years. As with every couple, we have experienced our ups and downs.
He expressed his gratitude for Wendy's support during his health crisis in 2017, stating, "She never left my side, and for that I will always be grateful."
It's clear that they both have a lot of respect for each other. However, challenges of their busy schedules just made it tough to make things work.
Absolutely. He ended the message wishing her the best with her projects, and it sounds like they're parting on good terms.
All right. So this is what I was jumping in a little bit too soon, but talking about the Netflix documentary on Mr. McMahon. I think for all the little wrestling nerds, I am included in that. Like I feel like my son who stayed up until like 2 o'clock in the morning because like a show was going to drop, like at Pacific time, like whatever, The Boys or one of those shows like that. I feel like that's what I want to do because I want to see this and see what the what it's going to be like. I thought, now you tell me this, Dave. I thought this was in kind of conjunction with Mr. McMahon. Like he had a part of it, I guess.
It started that way.
He put out the I'm sorry. He put out a tweet or whatever. He put it out everywhere. I think Efren said it had been seen by over 8 million views on Twitter. And I think he put it out today, saying that, that I can't remember exactly what did it say. I'm sorry. The tweet that he was part of it, but he's not sure about how this is going to look. I guess I don't know how exactly.
He's selling. I mean, he started out participating with his documentary, and then crap hit the fan, and he's on the outside looking in. And I mean, he's selling. I mean, that's all this is. He hadn't put out a statement in a long time.
Right.
He's seen part of it, and he knows that they're fixing to nail his ass to the wall. And I mean, he said he doesn't participate. McMahon doesn't regret participating in the doc, but he's got some strong criticisms how the story's being told.
Yeah, he stated that I guess the early cut that he saw, I guess, misses the mark and kind of conflates his on-screen personality with his true self, which I could see that. I think a lot of people do, actually. He expressed concerns about misrepresentation.
We've had a run-in. Star of the game event, Efren. What's going on, Efren?
I have something. Hi. I love you. This is quite possibly your greatest show ever.
Yay!
Thank you.
He is an absolute wrestling treasure. And where's my camera? Where's my light? Where's that? And you were, you were so. He's one of those like 3-hour brains. You could talk.
Yes.
You could talk to him forever. My joke is with him. I go, come on, guys, drinks on me. Dockins is buying because, trademarked so much. I have something to say that I didn't because I was hogging up the chat, because I swallow up the space when I'm in the room. I had an idea and I did it, which I won't say that AEW took 98% of. And I called Dockins up. I said, can we go after them? And he said, I don't know if he would ever tell you this. He goes, absolutely. Just, show me that you did it first. And I deleted it. I deleted all the stuff because it was a project and I didn't know if it was going to take off or not. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't find it. And he says, oh, without you having it, it's just an idea.
Right.
Protect your idea. Like he's the one who, that's why Honky Tonk Man uses him, Leo Rush. You never know. And I am living proof that AEW is using an idea that, not that I could prove it. I am living not proof.
Yeah.
That they are. But they haven't used it since. I was pretty loud about it on Twitter, and I wonder if I scared them because I'm so important. But Protect your idea.
They do that. I mean, both companies, all companies, they're not above seeing something.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a no-no in the comedy world to steal jokes, but this happens, and it happened with something. They didn't steal anything from me. I'm just saying that I posted something to Mr. Briscoe about a finish I saw in Florida in the 80s. I just saw it. So that's a great finish. You don't ever see it. It was a spot where him and his brother lost tag titles to Dory Funk Jr. and David Von Erich. Dory Funk had grabbed Briscoe's legs to roll him up. David stuck his foot through, put his foot on Dory's ass to give him extra leverage. 1, 2, 3. Me and Briscoe acknowledged that finish, thought it was a great finish. And then it happened on WWE the next 2 weeks. So yeah, they see.
I love
stuff
when
and
someone
use it.
puts a foot on my ass and extras me.
You know what though, Efren? It was really good to hear from you because you were someone that had kind of had a trademark. You know, I mean, it was good to listen to Mike talk about the different things he's done, but it was really cool to hear the person and what you had, your idea and what you went through. And, you know, like you said, unfortunately.
It was much better than my hypothetical Rusev Smash series on Pornhub.
On his porn.
Yeah.
Well, you always hear the good about him, Danhausen, or I'm sorry, Donovan. What was the other name he used? The real name. Oh, Steve. Not Sting, Steve, Donovan. No. You always hear, hey, Sting got. I wanted you to hear the other side of trademarking because I thought WrestleMania would have been fabulous. And they came at me with 13 different, nope, we own this.
Right.
I said, what do we know? He goes, well, we're kind of done with it. Now we have a good shot to win. I said, how much is this going to run? He said, maybe 100,000.
Right.
And all that game show money I'm collecting. I said, do it. No, I was done. My idea was done. And that is why it got changed to the game event. And the other bad side is I didn't have proof of my idea that AEW took.
Mm-hmm.
And we were this close, man. We were this close to saying, hey, this is my idea. And it was 2 years ago, and I deleted the footage. I don't have it anymore. But yeah, are you going to stay up to watch the McMahon thing tonight?
No, it comes on at midnight. No,
I have no idea when it's coming out.
I was hoping that it comes out at 3 a.m. Eastern, midnight tonight. I hope they would release it like they did House of Cards one year. Oh my God, I haven't binge watched something since House of Cards. I'm not going to watch all 6 episodes tomorrow. But yeah, after shows, Conrad and Eric are doing a show a night.
Yeah, they're.
Mm-hmm.
I may see if I can for Top Guy Wednesday. We may just watch the episode, watch one or 2 episodes.
Because I'm definitely going to watch it sometime tomorrow. I don't know, not at 3 because I have to go to bed. I have to sleep.
And even though Dockins isn't a criminal defense attorney, I had a criminal defense attorney on. And if you go to my fandom and search the complaint against Vince McMahon, I brought on a criminal defense attorney, and we spent an hour and a half talking about the complaint from a criminal defense attorney and what it means.
And that was
Do you think it's going to be whitewashed? I think it is a little bit. You don't pay a company $6 billion. Oh, and we're doing this.
No. Bill Simmons is gonna. I think it's gonna be brutal. I think it's going to be brutal, and I think Bill Simmons is going to bury him. And all they got to say is that he's not here anymore. So this, I don't think it's going to make a hill of beans to WWE.
When I think of Bill Simmons in WWE, I think of the end of the Andre documentary. When Vince is talking about him when his run had ended, he goes, "What did he say?" He goes, he had no more relevance. He was done. He had no reason to be there anymore. I was like, ouch. Yeah. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So thank you for having me on. I didn't mean to
Thanks.
swallow it, but yeah, I
Well,
appreciate
thanks
you.
for letting us hit Dockins with some real stuff, because
Definitely. I think that was
You
cool.
you didn't need me. You guys have, but this has been your best episode ever. And now, because of the past 5 minutes, it's even better.
all right.
Love you guys.
Love
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you,
Love
Efren.
Bye.
too. Bye, Efred. That was cool to have like real life stuff, like you said, kind of going
Yeah.
through. I definitely will be watching. I will not be up at 3 or 2 or whatever. I will definitely want to be watching that. We'll be really interested to get Eric's take on it.
Well,
I think your
Vince
dog heard my
McMahon.
dog. I don't know. if
Vince
you heard him
McMahon
barking.
has always been and always will be my pro wrestling villain,
Sure.
because he destroyed the type of wrestling that I love.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he killed the territory system. I mean,
Yep.
he took over. I understand that they could have done things differently and everything, but the villain in my wrestling story is Vince McMahon. And if they hammer him relentlessly, then so be it. I mean, because he will always be my wrestling villain.
It'll definitely be interesting. But you know who else is also interesting? Cody Rhodes.
Look at Cody being the
That's
Yeah, I
pretty
got-
cool. I'm sorry. Put your glasses on, elderly.
Cody's topped the
You didn't even
merchandise
put your
list.
glasses on. You like
Top 5 overall, not just at Fanatics, and that's not just the top 5 wrestlers, top 5 athletes. Fanatics does it all. And,
that's right. That's crazy. I mean, he is top merchandise list globally and now is in the top 5 overall sales of any athlete or personality. I can't even, who is do you know, like who would be in the top 5?
No, I have no idea.
I just think that is,
I didn't even think to look who the other 4 were, to tell you the
well,
truth.
I'm just curious.
It just kind of blew me away that Cody's doing that well. And
Right.
they do a good job. Fanatics does a good job on the wrestling merchandise to do such a poor job on jerseys. Their baseball jerseys were not good. They got the hockey jerseys now. Thank God I have an Adidas hockey jersey. Hopefully the Stars don't change the design anytime soon. And if they do, I'll just keep wearing mine. But for as poor as the quality is on a lot of Fanatics jerseys, they do a great job on the wrestling merchandise.
That's interesting. I'm trying to find who else. I'm just curious of the names because I think putting him in the category with the name of the people, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if they're going to tell us.
Well, and in a surprising turn of events, that's not it. Jey Uso defeated Braun Breaker on Raw last night to become the Intercontinental Champion. I did not see this coming.
I don't know if I did either. He needed it though. I think Jey Uso. I think he needed something, a title. He's doing really well, with the whole. I don't know. I think he did need it.
I disagree.
You think you didn't think he needed it?
I've been waiting for him to get back with his brother. I didn't really appreciate the Usos until I didn't have the Usos anymore. I don't think either one of them have been compelling without each other.
Well,
I was excited that maybe they were going to be back with them, and Sammy were going to be back with Roman, and we're going to go to War Games. And
well, did you not see? Well, this is a couple days ago. Rikishi put out like a tweet about praying for Jimmy.
Yeah.
So I just assumed that maybe he wasn't able to come back.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that helped prompt some of that. Like you said, I do think I like the Usos better together than separate.
But you've unceremoniously took the belt off of Braun Breaker.
I agree.
While he was rolling. So I don't know what to make of it. But I mean, good on Jey that he's the Intercontinental Champion. It just make sense. I don't get it. I'm really I'm such a huge fan of Braun Breaker that the conspiracy theorist in me wants to know, did he do something that they decided to take the belt off of him? Because it wasn't nothing with his in-ring work.
Right.
I mean, he's been steamrolling folks.
I agree. I don't think I mean, like you said, I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do. We're just going to have to hang on to the rope and kind of see what happens. I agree. It does seem kind of odd for Braun Breaker to lose already. But I also thought it was weird that Sami Zayn beat Braun Breaker the first time he went for the belt. You
mean beat Gunther?
No, remember?
Oh yeah, the first time he defended against Braun Breaker. Yeah.
Yes. And it was like, and then the next pay-per-view he beat him. And it was just so weird because, like you said, Braun Breaker had been on this steamrolling of, of
right. And it's like they had a competitive match and Sami won, and then Braun Breaker steamrolled Sami.
Yeah, that was weird. So I don't know if they had plans and it had to be changed or what exactly happened. Who was the referee? I thought it might be when I saw who the referee was. That's from Heather. I didn't see this match because, again, as you all know, I like to go to bed early. I don't see much after 9 o'clock.
I had to go back and look. I just watched some videos of it because I was in bed myself and my text messages blew up because Russ Miller was saying that Jay needed to win the Intercontinental title, and me and Mike Page told him that wasn't going to happen. And then then I saw Page text Russ and say, "Well, are you happy, Russ?"
I do want to say, because we're done with the news, I think.
Yeah, we're going to move on.
I do want to say just real quick, a couple things. First off, the Four Horsemen hat. This is one of their new designs. If you can kind of see, it's the yellow and the blue, and it's a pretty cool looking hat. You can get that over at the Four Horsemen store. But if you remember, Miss Leilani Kai, she recently had hip surgery, and she's doing really well. She posts a lot on Facebook. She has the most amazing photography of behind the scenes wrestling events.
Tell the kids who Leilani Kai is.
Yes, I'm so sorry. Okay. Leilani Kai is one of those. First off, she was a Fabulous Moolah girl. She was trained by Fabulous Moolah. And she was actually on the first WrestleMania pay-per-view. She was who Wendy Richter went against at WrestleMania 1. She used to be, she was also on a tag team with Judy Martin. I lost my name because they're not the jumping bomb. They're not the jumping bomb angels. What did they go by? Glamour Girls. That's what it was. Sorry, the Glamour Girls. She is one of those ladies who really kept women's wrestling alive. She did a lot of stuff in Japan, early 80s. Think early 80s. You can find her on Twitter and Facebook. Like I said, she's recently had hip surgery, but she would post the greatest pictures. They'd be on a tour of Japan. She'd have people, the bus. She'd have, you just get to see all these old photos of, whoever, Matt Bourne and Dusty Rhodes, or just whoever, Vader, just different pictures of things that tours that she's been on. She posts a lot of pictures like that. Really cool. And I've really, really enjoyed watching her post different things because, like I said, it's that behind the scenes. She knows a lot. She's seen a lot. She's done a lot.
Is she posting on X or Instagram?
Facebook, and she is on X. I don't get on Instagram very much. She may be on there, but she's under Facebook at Leilani Kai.
Okay, I'll have to check her out.
Yes, definitely. And she's selling. I bought. She was doing some autographing, so I was like, hell yeah, I want some pictures. I want some autographs from you. I said that would be amazing. But she's one of those ladies that really kept women's wrestling, I guess, going in that period of time when there really wasn't a lot. And she's got some really good photos. So definitely check her out. So thank you for that, Pondwater. I just wanted to give that little shout out because, like I said, I've really enjoyed it, and we want to wish her the best. She's been so sweet, cute. She's just like, she's really nervous, as you can imagine, having a major surgery. She was really nervous, and so she's been on Twitter and Facebook a lot, just kind of,
She had some
tweeting
time.
out and stuff. Huh?
She has a little time on her hands right now.
Well, yeah, she definitely has a little time on her hands, but she was just really nervous, and so she's been just kind of definitely more available on Facebook.
All right.
So I want you
With
to
that
know.
being said,
Yeah.
It's time for Amy's trivia. Think you have the facts? Let's play and see.
So, in honor of our guest Mike Dockins, I chose his favorite wrestler, Andre the Giant, to do our trivia on.
we didn't even get to talk to him about Andre the Giant.
Well, you know what? I was like, please, I don't want Mike to do the trivia with us because then he might be like, these are stupid. These are really easy questions, Amy. So I just was like, but in honor of him, I chose Andre the Giant. So Andre the Giant was born on May 19th, 1946. Which wrestler from the list below has the same birthday? So one of these four is born on May 19th also. Was it Aleister Black, Brody King, Buddy Matthews, or Julia Hart? Which one shares a birthday with the
This is going to be
Andre the
total
Giant?
guessing. We're going to be totally guessing. We're going to have to start bringing a guest in to sit in with us for trivia.
We do, to do the trivia. Yeah, we do. Anybody in the chat, feel free to throw out a guest.
Yeah, it's for y'all. I'm going to throw out a guess and say Buddy Matthews.
You want to guess again?
I'm going to throw out a guess and say Brody King.
Would you like to throw another guess out?
I'm going to just turn this and give the answer. It's Aleister Black.
Yes, Aleister Black was born on May 19th. That's okay. That's okay. Same.
And what's crazy about that is I was going to say Julia Hart next. Aleister Black was going to be my last guess. So I stunk on ice.
Well, but now you
But I knew Willie Buck was going to get it right. Look at Willie Buck.
Heck yeah. But now you know Andre the Giant and Aleister Black born on May 19th.
Speaking of Willie Buck, he's riding with us in the chat. Heather Whitley's here. We have Ben Jones from Australia. Good day, mate. Thanks for being here. Efren, of course, was here. Andrew Hermes was here. Darren Staley. I saw Coach Keith Morrison earlier. K-Dog.
K-Dog popped in.
Chris McDonald. How about that?
Derek Zoo.
Derek Zoo. But in the middle of, he was between shows and he popped in.
And when he says he's in between shows, he works in Gatlinburg at the Hatfields in McCoy. So if you're in that area, you need to go check it out.
And then of course we had little Jimmy Sorensen. See what I did there?
Yes, I did. I know exactly what you did.
Moving right along.
It is noted that at birth, Andre weighed how many pounds? Was it 13, 14, 14 and a half, or 15 pounds? And I believe his mother was only 5'2". Just throwing that one in there to you. But he was big at birth.
I love that Amy put 14 and a half.
You can't be 14 and a half pounds.
I'm going to say he was 13 pounds.
Ding, 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 ding. You're correct. Good guess.
Ooh, he tore up his daddy's playpen.
Well, and you know what? Andre the Giant was one of 5. He was the middle child. So not
the two that came after him just walked out.
Oh, God. Oh, Lordy, Lordy, Lordy.
Woo.
I don't know that question. Who was credited? Oops, that was the leftover, I think.
Oh.
That's okay. All right, now we're going to do a little medical.
You know what the miracle of childbirth truly is?
What?
That when you can take something that's like that and stretch it out to like that and put it back to like that, that's the true miracle of childbirth.
Yes, you are so right. That is the miracle right there.
Andre suffered from, you do that. You wrote.
Yes, I was going to.
Yeah,
He
I'm gonna let you.
suffered from acromegalia, a disorder that results in excessive growth of certain parts of the human body. What gland is primarily responsible for excess growth hormone being produced? Is it the adrenal gland, the pineal gland, the hypothalamus, or the pituitary gland? So if you were to be diagnosed with acromegalia, what gland is primarily responsible for that excess growth hormone being produced?
I'm going deep pituitary.
You would be correct. Very good. We got a few people in the chat that got it right too. Congratulations, all.
Heard enough Andre stories to know that that's what
That it
because
was.
that the Big Show actually had a procedure done
Yes.
that if Andre would have had that procedure, it would have prolonged his life.
Well,
Or it was too late.
no, it wasn't too late. Andre didn't want to have the surgery.
Oh,
So what happened, from what I read, now I can't remember what his book was called. Well, I guess it was was it the Eighth Wonder of the World by the same man who wrote the book of Patterson, Pat Patterson, Jacques, I can't remember his name. There's a very good biography out about Andre the Giant. I believe it's called Eighth Wonder of the World. And one of the stories that we're talking about, he was not actually even diagnosed. I mean, he grew up in a, village in France, and he quit school when he was in ninth grade, I think, 8th grade or ninth grade. By the time he was 13, he was already like, 6'4". He was a big, big person. He didn't really know what was wrong with him. He didn't know that he had this acromegalia until he was actually, I guess, in Japan is where the first time he'd even kind of heard, I guess, that diagnosis, or that's why he was the way he was.
Bertrand Hebert and Pat Laprade.
Yes, Bertrand. It's a very good book. I definitely would recommend it. But he didn't know how that would affect his strength. And I mean, again, at this point, he was already in his 20s. When he found out what it was, it definitely could have prolonged his life, because that is part of the acromegalia. They tend to have a lot of heart issues, joint pain. I mean, you're growing, you're have all this growth hormone where your plates have already grown, but now they're continuously growing. So typically, the other thing that I thought was really interesting. Do you remember it talked about other people that had acromegalia when I was looking up stuff. The guy who played Lurch in the Addams Family, he had it, that actor. And you could kind of almost see, like you have large hands, large features, some of the eyebrow bones here, some of those things. It's not just that you're just huge everywhere. Typically, it's like your feet, your hands, some facials. Do you remember Bentley on the Jeffersons? Do you remember him? He actually had it. And again, if you think about those different people and how if you think about his brow, how that was, I don't know about his hands, but I mean, he definitely had some signature features of acromegalia. So I just thought, again, I kind of went down a little rabbit hole about that, but I thought that was very, very interesting. But yes, it was a pituitary. Sorry.
Okay.
What year was Andre the Giant noted in the Guinness Book of World Records as being the highest paid wrestler? Was it 72, 73, 74, or 75? He was in the Guinness Book of World Records for being the highest paid wrestler.
I'm going to say 72. 72 was my answer before I saw what the choices were for some reason.
Oh, you think so?
But
We got some.
I want to say it would have been 75 because he would have been getting that $6 million man money by that point.
Oh, well, this is as wrestler. As a wrestler. I don't think they included anything else, like just what he was paid as a wrestler. Drum roll, please. You're all wrong. You're all wrong. It was C, 1974. Bonus. Do you know how much he was approximately paid?
Probably
That
about
made him
$500,000.
74. Close. You can go to the next question. I think. Yes.
Oh,
It was a bonus. It was approximately. Anybody want to take a guess in the chat? 500,000 is too much.
375.
It was actually you could show it.
400,000.
Which it said in today's figure would be like $2.3 million. Like, could you imagine? Like, but that's what he made. Now, unfortunately, probably a lot of his money went to alcohol, but it also went to a lot of accommodations of just having to change things to make life comfortable for him.
I wonder if he ever made $1 million from Vince in a year.
I don't know. He was such an attraction. Again, when you had the territory systems, he could come in. They paid big money for Andre to come in, and he could go and he could, do a battle royal or whatever, and just come in and do a show. I bet he wasn't paid $1 million from Vince. I could be wrong.
I got to see him wrestle at the Sportatorium. He tag teamed with the Iceman King Parsons against Super Destroyers.
Isn't that crazy? But yeah, he would come in and he would do that kind of stuff. Mr. Lynn, the Grappler. I'm reading his book right now. We had him on the show several weeks ago. He's talking about how
out of the bat.
Yeah.
Isn't that a great story to hook you with right out of the gate?
Yeah, I was just
talking about that he wrestled, he tag teamed and wrestled against Dusty Rhodes and Andre the Giant and won
and beat him. Yeah,
in the Superdome.
Yeah, it was a Crockett era. Was for the tag team belts. Yeah, but I mean it was for the belts. But yeah, yeah. And he told us another story about him, but you'll have to go back and listen.
Yeah.
Okay, next
I love the Grappler. I next time I see him, we'll see if I can get him to come on and spend.
Yes, you
and
have
just do an episode with us.
And I'm telling you all out there, fans, you need his book. It is really good. I'm really enjoying it and would love to have him on. Rumor has it, and
I've got it. I've got it right here on my desk.
Awesome. Yep, that's on my nightstand because I'm like chapter 6 now. He's had a really cool career for someone that doesn't get talked about a whole lot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Rumor has it the most 12-ounce beers Andre drank in one sitting. In one sitting, it was considered 6 hours. Is how many?
T-Weed says 129.
We got 109, 119, 129, or 139.
I'm going to go 109.
All right. You should have gone for the middle. It's 119. There's also, but there will be some people out there that say he's drank more in a sitting, and he probably has. But this is one that Andre, I guess they might have been counting. I'm not really for sure. But can you imagine?
It's not polite to count.
Can you imagine 119 of anything? I mean,
no,
I
can't.
Hot dogs. Popcorn,
one time I decided that I was going to try to eat a 50-count chicken nugget, and I got to 42 of them.
Oh gosh, I bet. But 119 beers.
Willie Buck knew.
Unrare.
Willie Buck knew.
Good deal. Next question.
At WrestleMania. Go ahead.
Well, you can read it.
Well, this is your deal.
Oh, at what WrestleMania did the inaugural Andre the Giant Battle Royal take place? We got 30, 32, 34, or 36. We had
I'm going to say 30.
Anybody in the chat want to say?
I thought it was earlier than that, though.
Nope, you're right, Pondwater. It was 30. It was 2014. Bonus. Do you know who won?
I do. Oh my God. It was oh come on. It was somebody that
It's on the tip of your tongue. You know it.
is.
He's not there no more. I don't know if that helps trigger anything.
Big
for you.
Show. Timmy C said Big Show. I think he's right. It wasn't the
Nope.
Big Show.
Nope. It was not the Big Show. Big Show
What?
won the next year. Actually, this person eliminated the Big Show.
Who?
Cesaro.
Oh man. I remember.
It was Cesaro.
Yeah.
And that is your Andre the Giant trivia. Do you think I would have stumped Mike? Probably not. But I thought, give
Mike
him a
probably
best
would have
shot.
known some of that though.
Oh, I bet he probably would have known every bit of it. Probably would have told us more, So yeah, that's all. Thank
All
you
right.
for letting me.
I want to thank everybody for joining us this week. Thank Mike Dockins for popping in.
Definitely.
And we had a great time with him. And we thank Efren for popping in for a minute and
telling his story, giving us a real life experience of going through a trademark, situation. That was really cool.
And I want to thank everybody in the chat for joining us, everybody watching on YouTube at pwdpod.com. Oh, goodness.
Our friends in the RAM Network are
The RAM Network. I'm so horrible. 1982 FFP Filter Free Popcast is doing 1982.
It's a good episode. I listened to it this morning.
Yeah.
Timmy was the only one that was remotely alive during that time, but
yeah. Oh,
and
hey,
I was
yeah.
too. But I mean, I'm not knocking him. I'm just saying, the other two weren't even born yet.
Yeah.
But a lot of interesting baseball information, I think.
And then go check out the TNA Top 10. We did the top. I was the guest this week. We did the top 10 hamburgers. We talked AEW. We talked some wrestling. We talked baseball. Then I sat in for the football show and we recapped last week, did our predictions, and I had a great time with those boys. Andrew and Terry and Allison, they do a great job on the TNA Top 10.
I learned a lot about football listening to them, and they talk about stuff. Speaking of football, congratulations, Dave, on winning the Survivor Series.
It's the only one I'm doing any good at.
I tell you what, man, I had Tampa Bay. They lost at home. I didn't.
They barely won the week that I picked them. I want to take a minute to tell you about the RAM Network, patreon.com/RAM Network. I put the wrong banner on there, didn't I?
Yes. But if you want to
for $5 a month, all the bonus content that you can handle. We're doing a world-class flashback. Me and Timmy C are going week by week through world-class championship wrestling. In 1983, my favorite year of wrestling, we just had the last episode that dropped had Kevin Von Erich defending the American Heavyweight Championship against Terry Gordy. The episode that will drop later this week, we'll have David Von Erich and Jimmy Garvin for the Texas Heavyweight Championship. Lots of great things are going on with World Class. The Iceman and Buddy Roberts are heating up with their hair matches on their way to a hair match. We're building towards International Star Wars at Reunion Arena with Kevin's rematch against Ric Flair, where if Ric Flair gets disqualified, the title will change hands. World Class Flashback. We're having a great time with that. Me and Dave and the HSV are doing CWA. We're fixing to record another episode of that 1988 CWA. It's a lot of fun with Jeff Jarrett cutting a promo on Hector Guerrero for their upcoming lumberjack strap match, which is he's going to have one tomorrow night on AEW. So what's old is new again with Double J. We have WWE eras with Andrew and Dave and the HSV. We have TJ and Amy with the Power of the Pen.
Mhm.
All
We just
that
did
and
that,
much
yes.
more on the Ram Network, $5 a month. Patreon.com/the Ram Network. Check us out. We'd appreciate it if you do that. Working real hard for you over at the Ram Network. Anything else, Amy?
No, I think that's it. I think you said it all.
All right. We'll see you next week. I'm Pondwater Dave for the First Lady of the Arn Anderson Fan Club, Amy Vine. Everybody have a great week. We'll see you back here next week for another edition of Talking Wrestling with Pondwater Dave. Good night.